Hello and welcome to our discussion this evening. Let's talk about NHS 24 and NHS Inform. And as part of this discussion, I'll be introducing and hosting, and I am James Barnes-Miller. And I'm representing BDA Scotland. So, as I say, we'll be looking at NHS 24 and NHS Inform. We'll be discussing what both of those services provide, and we'll be joined by two guests representing those services. But we decided to pick this topic because it's World Health Day on Friday, the 7th of April. So we thought that tied in very nicely with our session tonight. So the two guests that I'd like to introduce to you today both work with NHS 24 and NHS Inform in relation to the implementation of the BSL Act of 2015. They work with, were funded by Equality and Human Rights and health boards and deaf councils. And so that's why, as part of that global partnership to implement the BSL Act Scotland 2015, we'd like to now welcome our two guests. If you could join us, please. Welcome. So would you like to introduce yourselves? Davie, would you mind starting us off?
Hello everyone, my name is Davie Morrison and I work within the engagement team within NHS 24. It's a pleasure to be invited along today and I look forward to questions that you may have.
Thank you and welcome. And as you can see, we're joined by another guest. Brigitte, would you like to introduce yourself, Brigitte?
Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. My name is Brigitte Cosford and I also work at NHS 24 in Davie's team. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you both for joining us this evening for this discussion. I'd like to start by asking you to describe what NHS 24 is, what services it provides, and how deaf people can seek support from those services.
NHS 24 may be best known for the 111 service, where people can call that service when their GP is closed and they're unable to wait until their GP opens. But people should also contact the 111 service if they're requiring to go to the accident and emergency, and if it isn't actually an emergency, because there are so many different routes where people can be directed to, and by contacting the 111 service, they will get the right care in the right place. So what we do know is that not everybody who attends at the accident and emergency actually needs to be there. There is other care and support available to them. So it's about making the best use of resources. Most importantly, the deaf community can contact the 111 service 24 hours a day by using Contact Scotland BSL. Contact Scotland BSL was first piloted within NHS 24, and we are very proud about how that developed into a national service. Of course, the 111 service isn't the only service provided by NHS 24. We also have the breathing space service, where people can open up when they're feeling down. And by contacting the breathing space service, they're connected to advisors. But equally, within the 111 service, we also have mental health advisors on 24 hours a day. You can have access to pharmacists and access to dentists. So the time to contact 111 is if you're unwell and you can't wait until your GP or other related services are open. Now, one of the messages that I would say is it's coming up to Easter, and Easter is one of our busiest periods. And what would be really helpful is if you require to renew your prescriptions, that you do so now before your GP surgeries close. So please, if you do take medicines and your prescriptions are nearing renewal, please do that now so that you don't run out over the Easter period.
Well, that's quite important information for our viewers, Davie. Thank you.
I would also like to say that we have a number of resources on NHS and Forum, and we'll discuss some of the resources later on.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for that thorough explanation. I'm wondering if we could tell our audience, we brought up a banner of Contact Scotland BSL, and that is a 24/7 service. It's a video relay service where hearing people, if you want to contact hearing people and you want help, you want to get through on the phone, you can use, as a deaf person, Contact Scotland BSL. You will be able to sign into your video camera on your phone or on your computer, and that message will be relayed to a hearing person. So it works like an exchange, really. So we'll be adding a link for Contact Scotland to our screen later on for viewers. Thank you. It's a very useful service. It's Scotland-wide. So it's good to include information about that today. Could you tell us a little bit more? Obviously, here in Scotland, we have the BSL Scotland Act of 2015, and as a result of that, we made a BSL national plan. How does that affect NHS 24? What actions have developed as a result of those plans emerging from the Act?
One of the things that it's enabled us to do is to work in partnership to develop resources and to find out what's important within the deaf community. So, for instance, we've worked with other health boards, including Public Health Scotland, on vaccinations and immunisations. We've published information on the patient's rights, and we've worked with the British Deaf Association to engage with people within the deaf community to find out what's important to them and also to act on that. So it's not just about finding out what's important, it's about what difference is it making. So one of the things we will talk about later is a number of resources which are now available on NHS and Forum and on YouTube, which have been made available in BSL. And this is a result of the feedback that we've received during the progress of the BSL National Plan and in partnership with the British Deaf Association. Now, one of the resources that's available resources which are available are on mental health. So I would encourage everybody, and there'll be a link provided both for NHS and Forum and for our YouTube channel, to please have a look. Please see the resources that are there and see how they would benefit you and your families.
Thank you very much, Davie. You mentioned that NHS Inform and that there'll be a link and that will take our viewers through to a number of resources that are available in BSL, and we're showing that link on the screen just now. And that will enable you to get through to many of these BSL video resources that Davie has mentioned. Could you give us some examples of the kind of resources you have at the end of that link there, Davie?
As I've said, we have resources on immunisation, vaccination, mental health. There are extensive resources on long COVID, and indeed during the pandemic, we worked with a number of health boards to make sure that information was provided into BSL, because it was really important that the community had the right information at the right time, as everything was changing through the pandemic. We've got information on your rights, your responsibilities. We've also got information on how to use web chat, and we've got information on a whole range of health and care topics. And I would really encourage you to go and have a look.
Thank you very much. So for anybody watching at home, if you want to get some idea of the kind of things, or you're thinking about the gaps in that provision, and you think particular resources should be made available in BSL on a topic that concerns you, and you can't find them on that link, please do get in touch, and we'll pass those suggestions over to Davie. There's also a YouTube link, as you mentioned, Davie, and so NHS Inform was the website, and also this YouTube link will take you to those video resources. So again, if you follow this link, there are lots of videos in BSL that are available to you. Thank you. Great. Moving on a little now, you talked about engagement with the deaf community. Can you tell us the kind of activities and how you have been engaging with the deaf community, Davie?
I think one of the things that I enjoyed most, but also found sometimes to be challenging, was working within the deaf clubs, being invited along, and meeting people face to face. And what I was always aware of was that the number of challenges that they experienced when engaging with public services. And whilst I'm a representative of NHS 24, I was always prepared to listen to people's concerns about other services and connect them to the services where I could. Since the pandemic, clearly one of the things that we have been doing is being more online, and we've been very grateful of the support that the British Deaf Association and Scotland has provided us with, and also the opportunity to attend the conference in Glasgow in October last year, where we met with so many old friends and made some new friends, and really grateful for the opportunity to do that. So we're always keen and interested to engage, and one of the things that we would really be keen on is the NHS 24 has a public partnership forum, and we have a youth forum for people between the ages of 16 and 26. Now, NHS 24 delivers services for the people of Scotland, and it's really important that we hear the views of as many people and as from diverse communities as possible. And one of the things that we would be delighted to have would be to have expressions of interest from people to either join the Public Partnership Forum, which meets about 5-6 times a year, or the Youth Forum. And the Youth Forum often meets in the evening or on a Saturday due to the younger people working or being in education. So we provide different opportunities for people to get involved with us, to tell us what's important to them. And one of the things that we're currently working on, and which we've previously engaged with the deaf community, is on our strategy. So what is important? What is our vision for the next 5 years? But it's not our vision. It's what people have told us. It's what people across Scotland have told us is important to them. So if anybody is interested in getting involved through the public partnership or the youth forum, then please get in contact with us, and my contact details will be provided later. But I've also got a challenge for younger people, or for anyone of any age group. Look, I'm quite getting older now. I'm getting nearer retirement. But there are employment opportunities within NHS 24. And if anybody wanted a chat about the type of employment opportunities, then get in touch with us. Or I can also connect you to a colleague who is a BSL user and who works alongside us within NHS 24. So you wouldn't be the first person who is a BSL user within NHS 24, and we'd be delighted if you had an expression of interest there.
And that's great to be able to connect someone up to another deaf person. That's lovely. That's really wonderful. And if there's a role model already in there, or a deaf volunteer already working with you that can share their experiences, that's really fabulous. And I'm sure that will encourage more deaf people to come forward to volunteer or get involved with the NHS 24. And to help express the kind of needs of the deaf community to the people making plans. We've got a couple of questions coming in from the audience at this point. We have one from Sylvia. And the question from Sylvia asks, will this cover NHS England and Wales? Will we get BFSL versions of the services provided in England and Wales? I mean, Contact Scotland is obviously a Scotland-wide service, but I don't know whether something similar will be established in England and Wales later, perhaps at a later date. We'll take another question at the moment, which is from Linda. Linda's question is, who are the people on the screen? Thank you, Linda. We'll refresh those introductions, shall we? So this is Davie and Brigitte. And Davie and Brigitte, would you mind introducing yourselves again, just for our audience tonight? Thank you.
Yes. Hi there. My name is Davie Morrison. I work for NHS 24 within the engagement team. And I'm proud to have been working with the deaf community since I joined NHS 24 in 2009. So I'm hopeful that some of you will recognise me on the screen, and I look forward to meeting you in person at some time in the future.
Thank you, Davie. And Brigitte?
Hello, lovely to be here tonight. My name is Brigitte Cosford, and I work with Davie at NHS 24.
Thank you for that request, Linda. I want to come back to talking about the NHS Inform website. I think, you know, there are various health issues and health topics that are covered by that website. But I'm wondering whether you think you have a balance of issues pertaining to men and to women, and how does that spread across the materials that you have available?
This is a question that we have been asking ourselves, and we welcome all feedback in relation to this. One of the things that we have been doing is, where there's specific messages, then we're making sure that representatives of the community are involved in the recording. So, as an example, when we were making a BSL film clip on our youth forum, we made sure it was a young person who was signing the message for us. When we were
so
making
you're
sure,
matching the topic with the presenter there.
yes, and also in terms of where it's relation to women's health, then again we've been matching the topic. But I think we can always learn from feedback, and we're very keen in feedback, and you know, we are aware that we can do more to diversify the people who are on the film clips, and that's something that we will make a commitment that we will look to do.
Great, thank you. And in terms of NHS Inform, obviously we'd like to see more videos added, more topics for deaf people, more information available in BSL. And I mean, maybe some of our viewers are currently looking at those links that we put up before and thinking, oh, there are some gaps there, I want to know about this. So if deaf people get in touch with you and say, you know, there's a topic here that's missing, you will put together information and materials and they'll be released to the deaf community. So in terms of men and women's health, we've talked about that. What about young people? Do you have videos that are specifically related to young people? What resources do you have for that part of our community?
So Brigitte's going to answer this question.
Yes, thank you. I'm just looking at what we have now. In terms of, Davie mentioned that we have information about vaccination and immunization. So some of these will be specifically for young people, you know, or again, we talked about men's health and women's health. And once again, there will be some conditions or some screening or some vaccinations that are specific to a gender or to an age group. But what I would say when we talk about the BSL videos on NHS Inform, there are currently 109 of them. So I'm glad that you've shared the link here, because I think it's a really good idea if people want to have a look at them and then see what might be missing there and then get in touch with us.
Thanks for that. That was amazing. You'd mentioned there's 109 video resources there. Do you have any statistics that can show the amount of traffic that's coming to these resources on your website? Do you have that information at hand?
Okay, so just to give you an indication of traffic to the website, to all resources on the website, on average, there are 12 million page views per month. So that's for all the resources on NHS Inform. And last month, so between the 28th of February and the 28th of March, there were 5,000 views of the BSL resources on NHS Inform.
That is incredible. What a statistic for a month. I mean, that's really clear, a clear indicator that people value this resource and the fact that they're accessing it. So again, I reiterate what Davie said, please have a wee look at this website. So the next question I'm asking is, do you have sort of links when you're giving out like these videos? Do you have BSL videos, like say for example, how do you contact 111 or how you contact other services? Do you have any resources like that?
There is a video showing a call to the 111 service using Contact Scotland BSL, so that's available. We have videos showing how to use web chat to contact NHS Inform. So we have something that came about as a result of engagement with the BSL community, was that there was a need for information about how to register with a GP practice. So that's available. So very much, as Davie said, we encourage people to get in touch if there's a gap, to let us know what's needed.
Amazing, thank you. So when we're talking about these sort of signing resources, if any, like happened in COVID, or a situation like COVID happened unexpected, then things have to change. You know, and sometimes there's been challenges, and sometimes we've been able to overcome them with technology. So what did NHS 24 and NHS Inform do in the COVID time?
I think what was, from the outset, what was most important was to make sure that the information was available, not just in English, but also in different community-based languages and in different formats. And NHS 24 worked with NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. We worked with NHS Lothian. We worked with the Scottish Government, and we worked with NHS Tayside to make sure that as much information as we could make available was made available into different languages and formats. The speed at which the information was changing and the rate at which the information was being made available, including lockdown advice and guidance, meant that it was quite a challenge for us. But the most important thing was that once the information was provided, that the communities were made aware of it and that they could access it. And one of the things that we did do was we tracked the number of times that people were accessing it. So not tracking people, but tracking the number of times that the information was accessed on our website. And what we were really pleased to see was just how many of the deaf community became aware of the resources and were accessing them, because different resources were available across the internet, and not all of them were relevant to Scotland, and not all of them were safe for the people in Scotland. So what we were trying to do was to provide quality assured health and care information available on NHS Inform, uploaded onto YouTube, and then to work with the British Deaf Association and others to promote the resources so that the community were aware of where they are and how to access them. Now, what I would say is there's quite a significant amount of information on long COVID now on our NHS Inform site. And again, if any family or friends or you yourself require information on long COVID, please access the information which is available there.
That's great. And are you still kind of sharing these videos, about boosters and those kinds of things as as the situation evolves? Because COVID is still with us. Obviously, it's not just a thing of the past. So, are these kind of is the updated information continually going out on the website? Yeah.
I'm going to ask Brigitte to answer this, but before I do, I want to send a personal thank you to all of the BDA staff in Scotland for the support that they have provided us with in circulating information on the film clips within their weekly bulletins. But we do work with other partners, and I'm going to pass to Brigitte to expand on that further.
Yes, thank you, Davie. So in terms of updating the videos, what happens is that when the English information is reviewed, then the alternative formats, including the BSL videos, are reviewed as well. It could be that the changes are really minor. You know, maybe a sentence is changed and therefore the translations don't need to be updated. But if it's a bigger change, then the videos will be updated to reflect any changes in guidelines, guidance, etc. So that will be done. And in terms of promoting the links throughout the BSL community, as Davie said, we provide an email every week with links to 3 new BSL clips or 3 clips that have been really popular. And to decide which ones are popular, we just look at the stats on the website to see what people have been searching for, what information they've been looking at, and then linking to the resources we have. And we send the email to the BDA, James. I send it to you every week, but also to the Health and Social Care Alliance, who have a wide network, and to others in the deaf community who promote the links on our behalf.
Thank you so much for that. You know, we're talking about sort of COVID. Now we're still going through it, but do you notice if there's been any, the traffic or the views, have they increased or have they plateaued because like people have thought, oh, COVID's not happening anymore? Or what's the kind of general feedback with the stats sort of post-COVID?
I looked at the stats just this morning for the website rather than just for the BSL, and COVID is not in the top hitters, what we call the top hitters, which is the most often visited pages. I think it's become part of people's day-to-day a little bit, COVID. So it wasn't in the top 10 web pages that were looked at in the past 2 weeks. But that could change. Something could come up in the news and then that could change overnight.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you then put the priority one right to the top. Got it. The other thing that I want to ask you about, and it's linked to NHS 111, is that when deaf people want to phone, what happened? Like they had that opportunity during COVID that they could contact directly, but now that COVID is, as I say, is not the main focus, have you noticed a reduction, or has it plateaued, or an increase in calls coming into 111?
It's definitely, we don't get as many calls as we used to during COVID, definitely not. But as Davie said, it's going to be busy for us with Easter, because when there are public holidays and the GP practices are closed, there's always an increase in the calls at that point. And as Davie was saying, you know, maybe people forgot to renew their prescriptions, and then the GP practices are closed, the pharmacies are not open as much as they would be normally. So that always causes an increase in the calls to the 111 service.
Thank you so much for that. That's really helpful explaining that. Thank you. Now, we've discussed many of the resources that you have on the website, but NHS 24, what rights do deaf people have in relation to NH 24? Who'd want to answer that for us?
I'll answer that one. So the deaf community have the same rights as any other person in Scotland. NHS 24 is there for every person in Scotland. To contact us when your GP is closed and you can't wait until it opens, or if you feel that you need to attend accident and emergency and it isn't life-threatening, such as somebody having a heart attack or somebody having a stroke. And the most important thing there is that by contacting the 111 service, your details will be noted. Where practicable, or sorry, where necessary, you will be connected to a nurse practitioner, where you will be triaged and you will receive the most appropriate care. Now, sometimes this can be self-care. So it can be, and again, going back to, it's coming up to Easter, so make sure that you have your paracetamols and similar type of tablets available to you within your medicine cabinet. It could be that you are able to wait until your GP opens. It could be that you require an ambulance, or it could be that you need to go to the minor injuries unit, or it could be that you're asked to make your own way to the accident emergency unit. So there's many different pathways, and starting from self-care to other support being available. So by contacting the 111 service, your details will be noted, and then the most appropriate pathway will be identified for you following clinical decision making. And as a reminder, over Easter, and as is usual, there will be dental staff available and pharmacists, and more importantly as well, or sorry, equally as importantly, people who are there to support your mental health, whether that's through by calling the 111 service and speaking to a mental health practitioner, or by contacting Breathing Space and speaking to a Breathing Space advisor where you can open up when you're feeling down.
Thank you very much for that. And just in relation to that, when we're talking about rights, if a deaf person is ill and they need to contact 111, they'll be signposted to other services. And can deaf people, in relation to accessing those other services, ask for an interpreter to be provided? Because that is a right for deaf people, right? They can ask for an interpreter to be provided at the other points of contact.
So when you contact the 111 service, and if you require a referral to another service, then that information requesting an interpreter can be passed on to the other service. I think most people within their own health boards will know what the local arrangements are there. I know that some health boards are introducing iPads and other tablet forums. So I think each health board has a different approach, but the most important thing when contacting NHS 24 is if you require or request an interpreter, then to make that known so as that the local arrangements can be put into place.
Thank you. And the same is true of, if a deaf person gets a letter to go for a vaccination appointment, whether that be COVID or flu or whatever jab may be offered, they can also request an interpreter be provided at that appointment. Is that correct?
Again, that would more be based on local arrangements with their local health boards, and I would expect that the letter should contain information about that.
Okay. So if you do get a letter and it doesn't say anything about interpreting provision, how do deaf people get in touch to make sure that interpreters are provided?
One of the ways that people can feed back on is through the patient experience. And every health board in Scotland has a patient experience team where people can and I think there's two things here. So the first thing is that there should be a telephone number provided where you can use Contact Scotland to get in touch with the organizer of the appointment. So there should be a telephone number, and if you're required to use Contact Scotland, then do that so that you can contact the department inviting you along, so that an interpreter can be arranged. But if you found that you weren't getting a great service, or you found that you got a really good service, then there are different ways in which you can provide feedback. One of the ways in which you can provide feedback is through the patient experience teams within the local health boards, and including the NHS 24. But another way in which you can also provide feedback is on Care Opinion. And Care Opinion is an online service where anybody who's using the health and social care services can post what their experience was. And it's often good, but it can sometimes fall short. Then they can post it on Care Opinion. The important thing about Care Opinion is it's anonymised, so your name isn't shown, but your story and your experience is posted. And that then means it's visible for anybody who wants to go and look at it. Now, the health board chief executives and the health board chairs, where there's a reference to a health board, that information is shared with them so as they can, as a checkpoint to see how their health board is providing its services. Is it doing well? Is there areas in which there can be improvement? So every single person in Scotland has a right to feedback. They've got a right to make a complaint about their service. Equally, they've got a right to say, well, that was good service. And one of the ways that we can all influence how services are delivered.
It's positive and negative, yeah.
Yeah, but is to provide feedback. If something worked well, say thank you, this worked well. If something didn't work well, say this could have been better, and here's how to make it better. So work with us to make improvements.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's very important information. The experienced team that each health board has, and if you're finding difficulty accessing them, then just contact us here at BDA Scotland and we can support you getting through to that service. We have a BSL helpline and we'll post the banner for that shortly. So if you need any support in getting through to any part of this process, and if you want to feedback both positive experiences and areas where improvement might be required, please do feel free to contact us here at BDA Scotland. Time is running away from us a little, but I just wanted to ask you a question about, based on the kind of feedback we've had, what ambitions do you have going forward for NHS 24 and NHS Inform? What actions will you be running forward with?
Last year we were able to go to an event in Dunfermline where we met up with a lot of the deaf community, and as I mentioned earlier, we were also able in October to go along to the BDA conference in Glasgow. I really look forward to meeting up with people face to face again, so as that we can get to know each other again and to continue to work with each other and make improvements. And again, you know, I would love it if people listening to this would contact us about a public partnership forum, or if you're aged between 16 and 26 and are interested in making a difference within the health service, making improvements within the health service, to contact us and come and join our youth forum. Working with people is how we make the best improvements, because it's the people who tell us what we should be doing.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. That's a perfect way to kind of encourage our audience to get involved, because later this year, in 2023, the BSL national plans, which have now been running for 6 years, will be reviewed. So that is an opportunity to create another 6-year plan heading forward, which may contain new actions, which will facilitate equality for the deaf community. So it's the perfect time to get involved in informing those changes. So do contact us either through the BSL helpline or by email. Do contact us here at BDA Scotland. And my final question to you both really tonight is, do you have any tips for members of our audience watching tonight for yes, just maintaining health and making sure they engage properly with the NHS? Any tips or thoughts on that?
I think the most important advice we can give you is that if you need help, get it early. If you are concerned about your health, visit NHS Inform, where we have a range of film clips intended to support you in terms of your own health and well-being. Remember, health isn't just about physical health, it's also about mental health. So take a look at the resources that we have to support people in their mental health, and just to take all reasonable steps to keep yourself fit, active, and, as I've said, coming up to Easter, prepared in terms of make sure your medicine cabinet's stocked up, and also to just keep well as you can and keep active.
Thank you, Davie. Brigitte, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, nothing at all, Davie. I think you've covered everything. I hope we get, in the better weather, that we feel a bit brighter in ourselves and more inclined to, as you say, keep active and feel better also, in our mental well-being. So here's hoping.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you both, Davie and Brigitte, very much for your time this evening, for coming to talk to us tonight. I hope this information has been very useful to our audience members. I'm sure it will be. Davie has encouraged you to contact him directly, and we'll be sending out his email later. For the audience in Scotland, If you'd like to get involved in promoting health access, access to interpreters, if you've had any experiences, good or bad, that you would like to pass on, if you notice any gaps in access to information in BSL, please do contact us here at BDA Scotland, either myself or my colleague Helen Morgans-Wenfold. You can contact us by email, you can contact us by our helpline, and we'll be putting all this information up on the comments for this live stream. But thank you very much.